Welcome to Sunrise Sisters. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Kate, and we're two runners who became friends quickly. We share advice, we laugh, and we're taking our runs off the road and into the studio.
Are you going? All right, we're going. Good morning, Kate.
Hi, Shannon. I was in the middle of drinking my coffee.
Don't you love when people wait until you literally bring a fork or a cup or a mug to your lips to ask you a question?
Imagine if you just spit it out and then answered them because you really didn't want to wait another second.
I think I would fall over if you spit it out and then we'd have to start again. But anyway, how was your morning? Did you go on a run?
I did. Yeah, I went on a little run. I love my running, as you know, but if I get up and I'm just not in the mood for a run, I don't push myself to go out. I want it to be enjoyable. So it was a run, but it wasn't like a long run. It was 4 miles, just a little.
No, that's not a nothing run. So do you feel like that's evolved? Because we've talked about the guilt of not running. So is it more on the weekends, right? Have you just evolved from feeling guilty about it?
Yeah, I think I've pushed myself even when I'm like, oh, I do not feel like getting out there. Push myself. And most of the time I'll go out on a weekend run. Very rarely do I not run on a weekend. And sometimes I'll run on a day I had no intention of running. I just feel like I really need to run. So I'll just run, even if it's just like a couple miles. But what I've been trying to do is run my longer runs on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. So I can get up Sunday morning, do work, listen to my podcast, like just chill. That's what I'm trying to do. Doesn't always work out with schedules and stuff. But today is Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I did run this morning.
That's good.
I didn't run yesterday.
So you flip-flopped it. Well, I think 4 is a good run. Do you ever wonder what constitutes a long run? Is it 5 miles and above? What do you think?
Oh, that's so interesting. Run? Okay. For me, I feel like 7 and more is a long run. What's a long run for you?
4 miles and above. So anything above what I do longer than on a regular run, I don't think it's considered long for anybody else. I'd say probably if you ask me outside of myself, I always consider 5 and above because I feel like they take a significantly longer time.
Yeah.
They take more endurance, but maybe it's just individual. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I guess I think like an hour run, but back in the day, when I was high school, college, 7 was a typical run for me. Like that was my normal run. I would go out for a 7-mile run, no issues.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's my long run.
That's interesting. Anyway. Yeah. So I did not run today. I ran yesterday with a group of women that I run and we did a little over 4.
Yeah.
I think it was like 4.7. So.
Yeah. So I'm going to call that 5.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, we should just
do you do that?
Quarter of a mile.
Yeah. I think I got back to my house at like 3.86 today. And I was like, no, I gotta go to 4. So
yeah, it drives me crazy when it's like right there. But this one I was done. So it was an out and back. So when we got back, I think it was just like, I'm all set. So I ran yesterday. Today I got up kind of with the same thing. Will I run? Will I not run? Will I walk? You know, it's kind of, I do think having a rest day, like an active rest day is good. I walk every day with my dog. So I kind of got up and was a little lazy and then decided I would get ready and take the dog for our 3-mile walk. And it was quite nice because the weather was kind of yucky this morning and I was surprised. And now it's quite beautiful. It's blue sky out in front of me. So
see, I think just getting outside is great. On the weekend, I just want to get outside. You know, if I walk, if I run, I like being outside. I like that. That's a good active rest day for me, going for a walk. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And, you know, I know sometimes I can see the slide if I don't do it within a certain time period in the morning. I start to feel less productive. Then it just kind of, it's like a law of diminishing returns. I'm like, oh, no. I know I have to take the dog out. Like I'm going to walk the dog, but she's a creature of habit. In the morning, she's expecting either a 1-mile walk, 2-mile walk, and it's the same routes, you know, 2 routes. And then in the afternoon, she goes down to another route. You know, in the evening, we kind of duplicate our 1 mile. So it's really weird. If I miss a walk with her, she starts to be like, I'm on to the next one. And it's a shorter walk. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I got to at least get out with her by the morning because she's expecting that walk and if I'm going to get a walk in with her. But I did get up, originally I was thinking I have that hilly route that is 6.5 miles, almost 7 miles that I love to walk because it's just beautiful scenery. It's great feeling, great kind of feel accomplished. It's definitely a workout in the walk because it's so hilly. And I thought of getting up super early, but then that didn't happen. I thought if I wake up super early and I'm ready to go, I'll go out and do that. But it didn't happen.
You'll have those days. I think you have to just be okay with being able to relax. I think you want less days of though. I guess I want less days of that. But because I don't have very many of those, I honor that I need it.
Yeah. You and I have our thing about the weekdays. If we can't run on our typical run days,
we're burning our town down to the ground.
Oh my gosh, we're so mad. Then we question ourselves, especially if it's like bad weather and we question, like it clears up or we question whether we should have gone out. We've gotten better though at going out in weather. You and I now go out in really bad weather.
Yeah, we don't even ask anymore. We just show up and just figure it out.
Yeah, I think the only time now is really more snow related if we think we're a danger to plows or a danger on ice and the weather's like pelting ice in our face.
I was thinking about it this morning. I think we're going to have to charge up our lights soon for our runs.
I know. It's getting darker in the morning and I'm trying to see positivity because I have to turn on my outside light when I leave and it's dark getting into my car. But then by the time we connect and then get ready and go up to get started, it's getting light, but it's definitely September's. It's, mid-August. In a couple of weeks, it's going to be dark. I think you're right. I'm going to have to find the charging.
I think my bunny's eating mine right now. She and I just had a small argument this morning.
What?
I can't get her back in a cage. So she chews on things.
Chews on wires? Did she chew on?
Yeah, I know that's not safe. I tried to grab her before. There's no wires that I think she can get to right now, but.
So you may not have some lights for our running when it gets dark.
Oh, don't you worry. I will find something, even if I have to bring a lamp.
You're making me think. So, obviously, although we go out early on the weekends, not quite as early or maybe, but we're going to have to start to get prepared for the change of like that eventual change. So the lights, I think we have to replenish our weapons of mace and
oh my gosh. Spray. I love that you just said replenish our weapons. That's awesome. Victoria mentioned that I haven't forgotten. She mentions that she runs with a knife. I think that's pretty cool. I might do that.
Well, I probably end up stabbing myself with you. So I think we have our finger knives, which I think is really important. So I'm feeling like maybe we just got to get a really good pepper spray. I don't know what happened to mine, my haul. I bet it fell out of my bag and rolled under something. I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've got to get that going. But all the stuff, like at some point one day we're going to wake up and I hate to say it, it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
I always try to have an on-deck seasonal change, like meaning I keep some of my lighter fleeces, pairs of capris. I keep them in a section of my running stuff just because I know one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like, where is it? And it's going to be in a container in my closet underneath 2 other containers full of crap. And then I'm never going to find it. So I always have one little set of warmer clothes or cooler clothes for every season ready to go when I need to.
I had every intention of putting away my winter running stuff and it's all still mixed in the same shelf with mine.
Really?
Yeah. And I was thinking about the other day, I'm like, well, whatever. I'll just leave it because I'm going to be using it again soon. So.
Oh gosh, man, we're never out of the one season when we're not thinking about the next.
I know. So our topic for running today we picked was
out of the invisible hat.
Stretching.
Stretching.
Every runner likes to stretch. No runner has time for stretching. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think I have both. I think it's boring. So after I'm done with a run and aerobic activity, it can be boring. And I think it requires focus because you and I have always added in stretching at the end of our run and then we talk. But sometimes I'm invested in really working at it and sometimes I'm barely moving.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm just standing there talking.
Yeah. Or I kind of get almost like highway hypnosis.
Yeah.
Where I'm talking and I'm just standing there like
doing a half stretch, like
doing
a stretch.
My arm above my head.
Right.
Which is a good stretch, but I'm kind of like not stretching.
Or like a half lunge.
It's true. Let's face facts here. stretching is really good if you run because your muscles are really building and getting tight. And it really helps you not end up with long-term injuries. And I think some of those injuries, when I look at it, happen over a long period of time. So the example I'll give is plantar fasciitis, which I do think also was because I wore heels at work. So it shortens that muscle or tendon or whatever it is. But stretching on a regular basis would have loosened that up from all your muscles getting tight. So I think it can over time lead to longer term injuries. So it's always good. But what is your reason? What do you think of stretching? Is it really hard for you to do, Kate?
It isn't hard for me because what I do now is we'll do our stretching. Mm-hmm. And then I will get my coffee and I'll actually sit and stretch some more, looking out a window, drinking my coffee. And sometimes I'll use that time to listen to something positive or read something positive or just like prep my mental state for the day.
Right.
So I combine a lot of things and I found it to be so helpful that you kind of have this window where you get the most effective stretch. But I think when you don't have a lot of time, you factor in your run. You don't factor in your stretch, which should be like an extra 10 minutes. So if you have only 45 minutes to do your run, technically 35-minute run, 10-minute stretch.
Yeah. I think it's so important to figure out because I've gone through different evolutions of stretching and what it looks like. And the stretching we tend to do is after the run, not before the run, which there's also, should we do it before and after? But I find that we loosen up pretty good when we start our run. We go nice and slow and kind of ease into it. The best I ever did, believe it or not, was during the pandemic when I wasn't heading to work and I didn't have the dog yet. And I would come back from our run and I would do what you just said. I would take the coffee. We have a pool. I'd go out in the pool. It was still shady. I had a mat near the pool. And what helped me be successful at it was I created a routine that I didn't have to think about. I did the same stretching. It was, again, highway hypnosis, automatic. I went through the routine. I had adapted it from a has-fit routine and kind of added in things I knew I needed to stretch or were good for me. And it was very meditative and I was consistent. And I have to admit, it was the best I felt. I wasn't getting tight muscles. I wasn't feeling injured. My back felt way better.
But you were stretching. How long were you stretching for? Like
15 minutes. I actually timed it. So, and I would put the timer on. Yeah. And I would do it kind of adapting yoga, kind of stretching poses that were just taught to me. Excuse me. I'm getting very choked up talking about stretching.
It's emotional. Take your
amongst yourselves.
Take your time.
So I adapted like kind of floor stretching.
Yeah.
Then I would do some things like a figure 4 or like things where my legs were stretching up and I was on my back. And then I did standing ones where I was actually moving my neck and my arms and stretching them and then my back. So it was really fully complete and successful.
Why haven't we been sitting for our stretches at the end of why haven't we been doing that?
I think because it's been a little wet. And I think because it's maybe there's stuff on the ground, but why do we let that stop us? Who cares? We should be
I don't know.
Half down on the ground on our mats because we now have that ability.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time we did that. And I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was raining. So we just stood and then it kind of.
Maybe the buggy. The other thing we've been dealing with this summer is with the wet conditions. It's been more rain. More bugs. It's been tough. So I think we've kind of gotten sick of the bugs. But
I still think we should have the mosquito nets on our heads.
Yeah. So Kate's referring to her new idea to stop bugs because she won't use bug spray like I do, where I practically drink it as a tea. She does nothing. So her new thing is that we wear head to ground.
You know what? Listen, our run on Friday, you inhaled a bug. And had you been wearing the hat net, all right, so let's veer off of our stretching topic.
Anyone out there that runs or maybe even walks, have you ever been going so fast and a bug with your mouth open just flies straight down like kamikazes right down into your stomach and goes down your windpipe or wherever the heck it goes after there, and you feel it go down and you know it's not coming back up? It's
awful.
It's awful. You cough. What I did was it flew down. Yeah. I coughed. Yeah. But then I kept replaying the memory of the feeling of it being flying down which was like awful and traumatizing. And
it must have been
making
big.
me feel terrible. And I don't know what kind of bug, but it was enough that I felt it. It wasn't huge, but it was like a good sized mosquito gnat kind of thing. So that was awful. And that's where you came up with.
I heard you. We were talking, you were talking, and then all of a sudden you went,
oh, it flew right down without
I knew.
It was like a slam dunk right down.
I knew exactly what you were going through. Yeah. Oh, I felt so bad. I just wanted to hit you on the back or something.
Yeah, I knew that was not coming back up. It was a goner. But anyway, so stretching, I feel like is something I want to incorporate in. And, I love doing that, stretching by the pool with the coffee. And then I would sit and kind of do the calm app meditation after. And it was a really nice way to start my day. But now I'm going in the office a couple days a week. I've got a dog I got to walk. So I kind of lost that time. So to your point, how do we come up with a method of stretching that we always go back to? And maybe we do one that we can use the ground when it's light out, and maybe one that's more of a standing routine. I don't know. What do you think, Kate?
I like our stretching. We don't do it for too long. Maybe we do it for 10 minutes. And then we'll always say, oh, this one feels so good. Try this. And then, it's like, oh, that one looks good. I think it's a nice cool down to do it. And then when I come in, it just gives me a chance to like get on the ground and relax and like breathe through some stretches that maybe aren't as comfortable to do on the ground outside or whatever. So what's your favorite type of stretch? Maybe you don't have like one favorite stretch, but is there one that's like feels the best, like you need it the most?
I feel like, I think there's like two components. I do love the yoga stretches. So child's pose just feels like my arms and my back. It opens you up. Yeah. Doing kind of like a downward dog to stretch the back of your calves, and then kind of flowing into like cobra pose, I think it's called. I'm not good with my yoga poses, but you come up and just the opening up ones. Yeah. But then definitely as a runner, doing things like whether with a band or just holding, like stretching your legs up or doing a figure 4 on the ground, really getting those foot muscles and leg muscles stretched, I think always feel really good. How about you?
I like anything that stretches the backside, like my hamstrings, my calves, my butt, like even just sitting and like grabbing the ends of my feet and like pulling, just something simple like that. I just feel like that always gets so tight on me. I don't know if that's a running thing or just like my habits during the day are probably a combo, but those always, I love child's pose is a good one. We don't do that outside.
You brought a good, go ahead. You finish your exercise because you just brought up a good point about what our rest of our lives look like, right? That might influence those stretches. But what else do you like to do?
Any of the inner thigh stuff feels really good.
Like sitting on like butterfly maybe on the ground. That feels really good. And pushing down a little bit on the knee.
That feels so good. Yeah. Figure 4. I love that one. You mentioned that one already. That one feels so good. Those are my favorite. Those feel like very releasing.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. What are the ones that feel best to you, feel like they're loosening up? And the piece I was going to bring back in was you're on your feet all day in your career and you're in what you do for a living. And now I'm sitting more than I used to, because I used to be up on my feet in the office and up and down, where on the days I'm home, I'm on calls and I'm sitting. Yeah. So some of that is, my back and wanting to be able to stretch things out and open things up, because if I'm sitting too much in a day or I'm, it does have that effect. And those things also influence not just my running, what I need to stretch out.
Yeah, that's your hip flexors. So if you're sitting a lot during the day, your hip flexors get really, really tight, flexing up those hips, and those actually attach to your back. So those play a big role in just movement in general, but those can be a big source of angst for runners. And especially for people who sit a lot during the day, they have to stretch their hip flexors. We have some good hip flexor stretches we do, and we're like, oh, this feels so good, do this. But that's a biggie.
What hip flexor stretches do you recommend?
Anything that opens up your hip. Like we found one to do in the trunk. It's hard for me to say it and it makes sense, I think. But if even like say a simple one, you kneel on the ground and let's say you're stretching the left hip flexor, right? Mm-hmm. Your left side, you're going to kneel on that left knee. So you've got some stretch in your thigh because your hip flexor actually connects to your thigh muscles. Mm-hmm. So just kneeling kind of lengthens those front thigh muscles. And then you're going to push your hips forward and kind of give a little bit of a lean back. You can even take that left arm and put it over your head to really get the whole left side of your body. Kind of lean over to the right side. I feel like I'm giving this piecemeal, so I don't even know if people can picture it, but kneel on your left side, kneel on your left knee, push your hips forward, and then take that left arm and bring it over and kind of lean to the right side. So you're really opening up that whole left side. That would be a good left hip flexor stretch.
So your right foot is on the ground and you're on your left knee, but your right foot's on the ground. So you're kind of like up like that. And then you're stretching over your head with your left hand, kind of stretching that out.
Yeah, you're kneeling. You're on your foot on the right side. This is a terrible description, but you're just kneeling down on your left knee, like you would take a knee. Just take a knee.
Okay, so everyone look up hip flexor stretches that include kneeling on the ground, and I bet you would find it. I always like the one where you're on your knee. If you're on your left knee, your right foot is out to the side, and then you pull your arm up and kind of loop through or bend forward and kind of work, rock back and forth.
That's a good inner thigh stretch.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah. That's a good one.
Describing stretching is hard unless you're unless people know what
inner thigh ones, like the butterfly, same thing. That feels really good too. We just don't stretch enough. And especially if you sit a lot during the day, after you run, you really need to combine it with something you already do, which usually coffee is like a nice thing to combine it with because you're kind of relaxed and you're just sipping your coffee and doing your stretches.
Brushing your teeth. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but you could be like stretching your arms up as you brush your teeth, one arm up, or the other arm up as you do the other side.
But I don't want anyone to get into a situation where they're like drooling their toothpaste.
Well, I guess if you're known to drool your toothpaste, we do not recommend stretching during brushing your teeth. Yeah, to fit in, I guess any stretching is better than no stretching. Even if you have 2 minutes of stretching, that's better than 0 minutes. So probably, that's something I'm kind of bad at, which is an all or nothing. I either do my 15 minutes or 0, or to that point, if we're doing a little bit of stretching and we're talking, at least it's better than no stretching. So how to fit a little bit in, or you just brought up maybe doing it a little later or making, I've talked in our past episode about doing some yoga classes, and that is an incredible way to add stretching in. Vinyasa yoga, again, not being a yoga expert, but I found a lot of the stretching exercises I learned at the gym or on video or that I'm doing were actually very much a part of that yoga practice. So I found that yoga, it could be a way that I add a good amount of stretching and lengthening into my time.
I am so proud of you because if you think about our early podcasts, we actually talked about how neither one of us could ever do yoga. And now look at you. You're like the spokeswoman for yoga now.
Well, not so fast because I've actually had to take time off just because of the timing of the classes on Fridays. And I've had vacations and weekends away and things that I haven't been able to go back. But my plan is once the summers comes to an end and my weekends are a little less hectic, that I want to go back or maybe find another evening where I'm home during the week that I could go and do it, because I did find it not only very stretching, but very meditative and peaceful. So I think that's the other thing too, is maybe the part that I'm learning is slowing down, like how I started, that it was boring, like stretching is boring, is because you have to kind of get slower. You want to hold your poses or hold your stretches to make them effective. And I like to keep moving and keep going. And that takes a little bit more practice. That takes a little more slowing down. It takes a little bit more intention. So that's the part I think I go back and forth on. So maybe that's the part I need to keep thinking about, is how to introduce it in and be okay that I'm not moving at 1,000,000 miles a minute or rushing into the next thing I have to do, which is a reality of life.
Right. All right, Shannon. So what are you listening to on your run walks this week?
Well, I'm actually listening to a podcast. I changed my platform for podcasts, so a lot of new ones are coming up. And I'm listening to Spotify, doing podcasts through there. And this one called Dark Valley, of course, the crime. And it's a series where a woman, this is in the Connecticut River Valley over in New Hampshire, up into Vermont. which we just drove through heading up to Vermont for our vacation a few weeks ago. And it's the story of a woman in the 80s who survived a stabbing attack when she was 7 months pregnant. She was at a convenience store, a very country area. And in 1980, I want to say 87, 88, I'm kind of forgetting. But basically what it does is she survived, and it was all the different women who were killed during that time, like about 8 of them, I think. That bottom line is they were all stabbed to death, and they think it was a serial killer all through the 1978 for a 10-year period. And what was common, what wasn't, and the fact that it was never solved, and also of the time period of what kind of was the thoughts, like, about why these women were attacked, that maybe today we would look at differently, the timing around them investigating, because maybe they thought the people ran off or they didn't find the body. So, maybe what didn't get investigated at the time because the term serial killer was newer. So it's just very interesting of the time. And it's with the woman who survived, who's in her late 50s today, going on the hunt with them and visiting the spots where these women were killed and interviewing family and a profiler. So very interesting. I know sounds incredibly dark, but I actually am finding it empowering based on the survivor. And then they stopped after this woman survived. And then the next episodes are maybe the killer move. So very interesting, investigative, and really focused on the victims versus just the crime. So Dark Valley, I highly recommend. It's got me very enthralled. How about you?
But see, that stuff fascinates me, but I would literally never sleep at night if I listened to 30 seconds of any of those things.
Yeah, understood. I don't know what it is about them. And obviously I'm not listening to it right before bed, but I do want to plug one other thing that I'm listening to, and from a podcast, if from a positive standpoint, is I love Hidden Brain.
Oh, you love that. Yeah.
They do a U 2.0 series in the summer. They just did one about if you're stuck in a rut and the things that stop you from moving forward. But it's just got a great voice. It's positive. I think everything's relatable. It's a podcast that has something for everyone in every situation, and it has a great archive. Highly recommend Hidden Brain.
Yeah, I know you love that one. So when I run, I almost always listen to music, and I had a nice little playlist today. That was great. But I just listened to a podcast, Oprah Super Soul.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. She did a mix and match on forgiveness. So she took a bunch of little snippets from all these interviews that she's done where they touched upon forgiveness and put it in this, 30-minute podcast, which I love doing because then it kind of interests me and other people. It was Gary Zukav, who I love. Do you know Gary Zukav?
I know of, I can't remember his book. I know him. I know I've heard him in the realm of kind of being introspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All of these people are just very spiritual. Marianne Williamson, she did Return to Love, who I really, really like. Adi Ashante, Gabby Bernstein.
Yeah.
All these people that I've been listening to for probably the last 6 or so years. And I've read a lot of their books and I've listened to a lot of their interviews. So I really enjoyed that. I feel like when I need something, it pops up and that was really good. And I just listened to a really good podcast interview from the School of Greatness, who is Lewis Howe.
Yeah.
And he just did an interview with a man named Inky Johnson.
Oh, who's that?
And Inky Johnson was a football player with hopes to go to the NFL, and he made a tackle and he tore off the nerves that make your arm work. He tore them off at the neck based on how he hit the person. He stretched his shoulder and his neck. His shoulder went one way, his neck went the other way. And he essentially tore those nerves and lost all function of his arm. But there's a lot more to the story. And so obviously his NFL career was gone, but he's just got a great insight. And then, he used that. He didn't consider himself a speaker. He didn't want to do that. That wasn't in his radar to do. But, he says, you have these experiences not for you, but to help other people. And so if you get through it, once you get through it and you can get over that, tidal wave of what you're going through, your job is to move someone else forward in the same situation. So he has a lot of great little one-liners. So I really enjoyed listening to him this week. That was good. I've got 4 books going at once. I'm reading The 7 Habits, which I really like, but it's very slow reading.
Maybe take it in chunks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm reading a book. I just downloaded an audiobook. Sorry, like I have so many things going at once here. I want to read Man's Search for Meaning. We talked about that. But I just downloaded The People Part.
Never heard of it. What's that about?
My coach told me about it. The People Part, it's a leadership book. And I think it'll be kind of interesting too. So yeah, I mean, I got a lot of different things I'm pulling from.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Want me to ask you another question?
Yes. Because I can't remember what the question is. I've already lost it, even though we talked about it pretty recently.
Whatever happens to those summers where you can read all the books you want to read? Do you have those summers? Is that a goal for you in the summer? Do you imagine yourself like sitting by the pool and reading all these books? And do you do that?
I read more in the summer because I do float in the pool and read while I'm floating. When I go on vacation, I read. I just read 3 books.
Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
You read 3 books on your vacation?
I just finished one. So one I finished when I got back. I read I Didn't Do It, which just came out. I think her name is Jamie Lynn Hendricks, but that's about thriller writers at a convention called Murderpalooza, and one of them gets stabbed to death, and then the other 4 are told they're next by a Twitter account that's targeting them and seems to be watching them, and they're getting investigated because they all had secrets about the writer that was stabbed, and they're all different people. One's stalked her, one's a guy who's got a huge ego, who's got a book coming out and is self-centered, one's a older writer who's trying to make a comeback, and one's a writer that she believes her boyfriend was having an affair with the woman who was murdered. And it's just really fun, and they have to bond together to solve it because the big reveal is coming on an awards night of the best thriller writer. So that one was super fun. I tried to do it on audio. There's too many characters. It made it very hard to follow. So I read it, and that's the one I finished yesterday. Mm-hmm. I read Jennifer Weiner's book from last year. She had like 3 summer books 3 years in a row. And I read The Summer House. I really enjoyed it. I read that on vacation. It was perfect. It takes place on the Cape at about a vacation house.
Oh, I think I've seen that one. Yeah, I think
that was very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And then I read a book. I love Fanny Flagg. I love books that feel comforting and the characters are interesting, and she revisits characters. She wrote Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe, and she also wrote the screenplay. And it was a book, The Whole Town's Talking. It was done in 2016, but it's kind of got an Our Town feel, which is it's about a town, and as the characters die, they come back to life up in the graveyard and are watching over, and it's the people coming in. And I know that sounds morose, but it's not. It's just like how this town got started in the 1800s by immigrants from Sweden, and then what happens as they pass away, and the town continues to evolve, and it brings it up to modern day. So it was a really great book. The characters are fun.
See, I need to read more. I think if I read more fiction, I'd get through books quicker. That's my thing. Fiction books are like the stretching of it. Just
so you like other types. You like more.
Well, I mean, it's not. If I could allow myself to chill out and read a good fiction book just to enjoy it, but it's like I got to do the run.
Yeah,
like, I got to do the thinking stuff, the growing stuff. Like I can't just chill out and read a book. Maybe I got to do that more. Maybe this is like our
I enjoy the library.
Those sound so good. I love those. Those sound good.
And then I also enjoy the library. I have a couple books that I've bought just that I was excited about.
Yeah.
But I enjoy going to the library and seeing what's on their new releases and actually visiting authors. Like to me, it's like a treat because it's free and we have a beautiful library in town, and then kind of seeing what's come out. So I had done a lot from the library, including the Fanny Flagg that had been out. So depending on what my mindset is, I love to look around and go with that mindset of, is it an author I've read that I want to go back to? Is it something new that I've heard about, or is it just something that kind of catches my eye while I'm there? So I have done a mystery book while I was there. The English Library has reissued The Golden Age of Murder, which is from the 1920s through the 1940s. All these great mystery authors that had issued books that maybe went out of print, they brought them back and they talk about the history of those authors, and then you get to read them. So that's been fun too.
Okay. Our last question is, what's one workout that's not a run that you did this week?
Do you want to answer first, since I just talked your ear off about
You know what? You inspired me. So yesterday I didn't run, but I did do some weight lifting and I used the medicine ball, and that is a hard workout. I have a 10-pound medicine ball. So I just did a bunch of different things with it. I like it, but it's like definitely cardio and strength. I was trying to catch my breath when I was done. And I just made stuff up as I went. Like I do like squats and threw them against the wall, and it's hard.
Yeah, medicine balls are great. You can do so much with them, to your point of sitting and using them in different methods of moving back and forth and mobility to throw them against the wall or slamming them. So as long as you have a house where you're not going to destroy it when you throw the medicine ball at it.
And don't throw it at anyone.
Yeah.
Even if you want to.
If you want to. Don't get arrested with a medicine ball. What a crime. I think for me, walking is in the summer, especially. I love the sunrise walks. I love walking the dogs, walking in the evening. It's just a nice way to be outside. Other than that, I think I've kind of been trying to really make sure for a little while, I was missing some of my strength training at the gym just because of vacations or sometimes waking up and being tired and just making the decision. But I really am kind of dedicating back because whenever I gain a few lbs, they go right to the middle, right into a roll. I swear. It's like, where do I go? I'm going to go right down to your belly. So I got a little bit of a roll going on. I got to strength train out of, but I know how good it is at my age, and as well as just it's a nice change up. So I'd say the walking and the strength training have been my focus. So nice. I guess we'll keep doing that.
Yeah. All right. That was a fun wrap up for the week.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, Kate.
You too, Shannon. Sunrise Sisters would like to thank Sterling-Lancaster Community Television, all of our friends on social media, our listeners.
I'd like to thank Brooke Winsman for our fantastic logo. Thanks for listening. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Kate, and thanks for running with us.